awake-ish, after alignment. I thought finding myself would be the finish line. After despair, after losing my footing, after wondering if I had the strength to endure life the way it kept asking me to, something shifted. I found alignment, not answers, not perfection, just a deep internal settling, a sense of being back in myself. The relief was immediate. For the first time in a long time, I was embracing for impact. I wasn't fighting what was happening. I could feel again without drowning in it. I trusted myself, not because life became easier, but because I had already faced the thing I thought would break me, and it didn't. That experience changed everything. It didn't make me fearless, it made me careful, in a quiet way, aware, grateful, protective of this new steadiness I had found. I knew what despair felt like now, and I didn't trust my strength to go back there again. So I didn't chase happiness, I stabilized. What I didn't realize yet was that peace, once found, asks a different question. Not how do I survive, but how do I keep this? The delicate dance. After I found myself again, I became careful, not afraid, intentional. I had already been to a place where everything collapsed. I knew what it felt like to lose my footing, my trust, my sense of self. So when life continued, when responsibilities expanded, when people relied on me, when what I had rebuilt began to matter, something steady stepped forward to maintain it. I became attentive to my thoughts, to my reactions, to the subtle shifts inside me. It felt like awareness, like maturity, like growth. I was calm, grounded, measured. I responded instead of reacted. I paused instead of spiraled. I told myself this was wisdom. I wasn't numbing out. I wasn't avoiding life. I wasn't afraid of discomfort. I was present, disciplined, self aware. I held myself to a higher standard, not out of punishment, but out of respect to what I had survived. I noticed patterns before they turned into problems. I chose restraint when I once chose impulse. I thought clarity required maintenance, and maintenance required intention. I believed this was what it meant to live awake. So I stayed alert, I stayed responsible, I stayed composed. Nothing felt wrong, nothing felt off. From the inside, it looked like stability. But stability, when held too carefully, can start asking for proof. And without realizing it, I began supplying it. The trap. I didn't notice the trap while it was forming. I noticed the weight. It had been building gradually, carried so well that I mistook it for strength, until one moment when it became obvious, not painful, not alarming, just heavy. And strangely, my first reaction wasn't frustration or self blame, it was relief. I was grateful I could see it. I hadn't fallen apart, I hadn't lost myself. The cage wasn't finished yet. What confused me was why the weight was there at all. I had done everything right. I was aware, disciplined, grounded, prepared. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't avoiding life. I was showing up fully, or so I thought. But something in me had gone quiet. Joy wasn't gone, it was distant. Presence wasn't broken, it was muted. My energy wasn't scattered, it was contained. I realized I had been carrying life instead of living it. The moment I saw that, nothing collapsed. There was no emotional spiral, no panic, no judgment, just a soft recognition that landed in my body before it ever reached my thoughts. I wasn't protecting myself anymore. I was bracing, not because danger was present, but because I believed it could return. And that's when it became clear. The effort I thought was keeping me free was the very thing recreating the prison. I hadn't built the cage out of fear this time. I built it out of responsibility, out of devotion, out of the promise I had made to never end up there again. I didn't feel like I was giving up. I felt like I finally stopped holding. And in that pause, before understanding, before language, before meaning, the weight lifted on its own. That's when I learned something I could have never known before. The work wasn't harder, the work was already done, and I had been standing guard over a door that was never locked. The realization, the first thing I noticed wasn't happiness, it was quiet. Not the kind that comes after something ends, but the kind that arrives when something stops pushing back. The noise didn't fade because life got easier, it faded because I wasn't arguing with it anymore. I stopped avoiding what I thought could hurt me. I stopped assuming I knew how things would end. I let go of expectations, even the good ones. Life didn't change. The same ugliness was still there, the same uncertainty, the same old triggers waiting to be noticed. But something fundamental shifted in what I received. I realized beauty and love had always been just as present as the chaos. I just wasn't orienting myself towards them. So I did something subtle but radical. I focused on what was alive, what was kind, what was real, and I only observed the rest. Not to suppress it, not to deny it, just to stop feeding it. The effort didn't disappear, but it changed jobs. Instead of bracing, it became aware. Instead of controlling outcomes, it watched focused. Instead of preparing for impact, it stayed present. I wasn't trying to stay right, I was staying here. And in that space, I felt both new and deeply familiar, like the child in me had finally grown into himself. Still the same love underneath it all, just no longer buried beneath vigilance. Nothing had to be conquered, nothing had to be fixed. The energy I spent protecting myself returned to living. Still woke. Gratitude became the baseline, not the kind that comes from things going right, but the quiet kind that exists when nothing changes at all. With it came peace, steadiness, and trust I no longer needed to defend. Life didn't suddenly become lighter. I stopped carrying it the same way. Fear still exists, it always will, but now it feels like something in the atmosphere, not something inside me. When it shows up, it doesn't demand action, it asks for faith. And faith, I've learned, isn't effort, it's permission. My ego didn't disappear either, it just changed roles. It became the energy behind motion instead of the force behind control. It serves what aligned now instead of trying to secure what might be lost. There's movement, ambition, responsibility, but no panic behind them. The biggest thing I released was control, not because I gave up, but because I finally trusted whatever this is. It's already unfolding. I don't need to manage life to be safe inside it. I'm still walking, still learning, still human, but I am no longer bracing for impact. And maybe that's what being awake really looks like. Not vigilance, not mastery, not protection, but a quiet willingness to live without armor.